everybody. This is Stanford Ravinsky with Retake Massage Therapy and Private Personal Training, aka Dr. Jiu-Jitsu. And today I have a good friend of mine, Professor Billy Crafton. He is a half guard player. He's been doing it for many years, and I train with him, drill with him. He teaches me a lot. But I noticed also from Jiu-Jitsu, he, like many others, have aches and pains from different guards that he plays. Also, he's playing it on one side or the other side, and we're going to talk to him and find out what exactly his pains and aches are and what motions he commonly uses, because as you know, when you play half guard, some people prefer a big knee shield, some people prefer different things over others. But in general, the half guard game, there's a specific position that your body is in, and he's going to discuss some of the aches and pains he feels in that position. And later in these videos, we're going to explain to you how to correct those aches and pains, what muscles get tight, what muscles are weak, what are the common problems seen, and how to do some corrective exercise along with stretching so you can get your half guard game better by releasing the tight muscles, correcting the imbalances, strengthening the weak muscles, releasing the tight muscles, and hold better frames so you don't put aches and pains on other muscle groups. Because as you know, if your hip or shoulder or anything is out of alignment from constantly playing that game, you're going to experience aches and pains in different parts of the body, and then your half guard might be weaker, not because you're weaker, just because of those aches and pains. So let's get started. Billy's going to talk about what position he's usually in. He's going to demonstrate that position and then demonstrate maybe a leg movement or a frame or just different positions. Then we'll sit back down and he'll talk about his aches and pains, and we'll call it a day. Thank you.
Yeah, so typically I play half guard with my right side down. I like to have my bottom right leg hooked tight so the hamstring is engaged with my calf holding my opponent or partner from sprawling back. So legs tight, engaged. Other leg, my left leg is always up, loose, so that I can shield and keep Stan from coming down. The last thing I want to do is let Stan push my leg down, and then he's going to collapse. So I've always got to keep my leg at a 90-degree angle, right in the shoulder, armpit area. I've just got to be cognizant that I don't put my foot in his armpit so he can foot lock me by wrapping. So I usually put my shin in there and just kind of move him around. So what it does is if Stan wants to try to push down on my knee, I can kick him back and pull him back and forth. So we walk on our hands, we walk on our feet, we don't walk on our hands. And what I mean by that is our strength is in our legs. So anytime I'm worried about Stan either pushing my leg down or wrapping my foot for a foot lock, I can just kick him back. So then once I have the frame and the tightness here, then I want to take the lapel, open it. I prefer the one on the opposite side because that's going to control his posture when I go back. So when I have the lapel here and I'm ready to thread it through the hamstring, that's when I'm going to use my leg again. Or I can pull on his tricep or his gi here and pull him back. If I pull Stan to me, the natural action is he's going to back away. And so that's when I go back and forth. When I'm ready to go under, I'm going to pull him in. I'm going to shoot the lapel through the hamstring right here, tight on it. So naturally what's going to happen is Stan's going to do one of two things. He's either going to come into me and try to knee cut his leg, or he's going to back up and try to sprawl back. The key with the lapel here is I'm in a great position, a resting position. Even with bigger, stronger guys, I'm not a threat. As long as I have the lapel, Stan can try to knee cut all day long, but he's not going to be able to go anywhere. So the key with the lapel is I'm able to sweep him and he can guide himself where I want him to go. So if he's starting to knee cut really hard and I have the lapel, that's where I want him to go. I'm just going to bump. I can either first grab the pants or I can use the arm to pull back. So depending on what Stan's doing. In a perfect world, you get the pants, and I'm just going to bump Stan up and come up. Or going back, let's say Stan's sprawling his leg. So I get the lapel, come up. I get the lapel here. Let's say I've grabbed the knee before. Stan knows not to give it to me. So now he's sprawling the leg back. I can't get it. The pressure's hard. All I'm going to do is I'm going to circle my arm back up to my elbow here, and I'm just going to bump forward as I pull my elbow back. So I'm going to use my knee behind his butt, and I'm just going to bump, come out the back door. I can either come up and get seatbelt grip, or with the lapel, I can simply sweep him by bringing him to me, grab the pants, have him fall on his side. Either way, it's 2 points. So come back, Stan. Again, if I've got the lapel here, the key is I want to keep it as tight as possible. It's the opposite lapel to break his posture. I want to get take as much slack out as I can to keep him from posturing up. So right here, if I get more lapel and keep feeding it, Stan's going to have a hard time posturing up. and get in the way. So it makes it tighter. So when I go to bump, he's going to fall. So again, the key here is bottom leg's engaged. I use the top leg as a shield. And when I'm ready to go, I'm either going to grab the pants here. Let's say he sprawls his leg back and I can't. I can then grab the arm as well and bump him. So if I have the arm, I'm just going to put my knee behind. I'm going to bump, pull the arm out, come up, sweep him that way. Right. One last thing. If Stan comes up and I have the lapel and he's trying to knee cut through, and I can't get the pants, he sprawled his leg back, he won't let me get the arm. So I'm holding the arm and he pulls his hand up, goes back. I don't need, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this elbow and come up. If Stan's really pushing on me and putting a lot of pressure, I'm not going to be able to go up to my elbow right away. So what I got to do is I got to circle my hand out, gradual, and I'm not trying to fight Stan because he's going to be bigger and stronger. I'm going to try to get out to the side over here, and that's when I'm going to dump him. I'm just going to kick my knee with the lapel. Again, I can come up and go for seatbelt grip, go for hooks, or I simply have the lapel here, pull him in, knock him over. Okay?
So, playing that game, what are the most common problems and aches and pains that you feel?
A couple things. So obviously, the key is, come here, is that when I'm down here, the first thing I have to do, I have to have my hamstring engaged. So a lot of times you're going to have people sprawling back, and your hamstring is going to be engaged for a long period of time. And so you got to worry about fatigue, but also the guy who's bigger, stronger than you, trying to just constantly push down your leg. So just the fact that my hamstring's always engaged, but also my legs up here, my other leg, and the fact that the person on top's trying to mash my leg in, so they're crushing my hip flexor, my knee, my hip joint, everything's getting mashed in. So it's kind of the opposite. One side of the leg is engaged tight, holding real tight. The other side is trying to be open, but a lot of times it's getting smashed and pushed together. So the two things with the legs and the hips are there, but then also have to look at my shoulder, where when I'm on my right side, which I prefer, you want to be tucked down. I'm not going to be open. The biggest problem I'm going to have is if Stan shoots my leg, he grips my pants, shoots a leg, and then gets an underhook, and he flattens me out. This may be great for your body being underhooked, but in terms of jiu-jitsu, it's not great. So what I got to do is I do happen to get this position, I've got to circle my arm under as I bridge to try to get back here. And so the key is I want to stay on my side here in a perfect world, and then bring my knee back in. So unfortunately, the great way to play the game is it's successful, but you're crushing your shoulder the whole time. So I'm trying to be as compact as possible. So my shoulders are rounded, my back's engaged, and I'm here for long periods of time. And especially if it's somebody bigger, stronger, or you're just really tired and they start to mash down. Even if my arm's in, I'm getting mushed a lot here and crunched even to get out. So even when I'm going, I'm still creating space and coming up. But even when I circle my arm, a lot of times, maybe you circle and you get a little greedy or loose, and Stan mashes me down again. And so he mashes me down again. All right, come back up, and I do it again. Stan can take his left arm and grab my arm and pull it back and smash me again. So a lot of pressure on the shoulder, on the bottom shoulder, and pressure on the bottom shoulder. So it's a combination of a couple things. It's the legs, one side's being real engaged, tight, where I have a constant hamstring curl. The other side is just keeping my knee in the air and my shoulders loose, my hips loose, and then being ready to be smashed. So at any time he can push my leg down, he can C-grip and pull my leg back, he can kick it around, he can do a lot of things. But at the same point, my top hip is always getting smashed, my bottom leg is always engaged on the side, and then typically my right shoulder is always crunched in. So it's a combination of a couple different things that isn't really a natural body position, especially if you do it over, several weeks and months, and then engage in it constantly several times a day when you're doing jiu-jitsu.
So also, if this hamstring is constantly engaged, this one is not engaged as much, because actually here you're using your hip flexor, right? You're using your quads more to push me away. So you're contracting this, and you're contracting this opposite. So if you were to try to correct this side, and let's say you wanted to keep playing this side, you would most likely want to stretch and try to lengthen from origin to insertion the whole hamstring, because every day it's in this kind of contracted. You train every day pretty much. The hip flexor, it's in a contracted state, because obviously you don't want the leg extended, right? So you want more hip flexion, and this is constantly contracted. So if this side gets overly contracted, it's gonna pull the hips, the knees. It's gonna affect the whole chain over here. It might react on the knee, might affect the ankle joint, right? So you wanna stretch this, right? You might wanna strengthen this hamstring because this one could be weaker. If every day you tighten this one, there's gonna be an imbalance, right? That's how you can start looking at it. Also for your calves, this is also engaged, right? Because you're trying to, also look at the hooks. You always trying to do this, right?
Correct. I want my foot wrapped around his ankle so he can't
So
winch
can't
wipe
take
his
it
leg.
out, right?
Yep.
So what muscles do you feel when you do this every single day?
And the shin, front of the foot, all the way up.
Foot, anterior tibialis, right? And that comes up, this muscle, anterior tibialis, comes up all the way over here. That originates insertions, right? So wherever it's tighter, it starts pulling that side out the most. So you might want to start by stretching and releasing this side, and maybe strengthening the soleus or the calf on this side, because you're doing the opposite. But here, if you look at this leg, you're doing the opposite, right? You're trying to kick me, right? And you could be using your hooks too. You're using either this or you're using this maybe to thread around, or sometimes you maybe even get lasso, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to get lasso, you're doing a lot of this, right? Using your calves. So you also got to look at what muscles are tight and what muscles are weak from overusing those muscles all the time. Are you using your calf a lot? Are you doing dorsiflexion? Are you doing plantar flexion? Are you doing eversion, inversion? Too much. Just look at that. And in jiu-jitsu, you're using this a lot, the hooks to hook under. So you got to look at that. And lastly, if you talk about the frames, right? You're holding your frame all the time. If you're always like this in this 90-degree angle, like you said, you don't want to get smashed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your shoulder's always in a protracted state like this, right? That causes tightness in the chest, in the shoulders. You could even get pain in the front of your shoulder,
Like I do.
like you do.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be from some kind of injury, but it could simply be because you're always in this contracted state, right? But for a lot of people that have a full-time job and they maybe sit behind a desk a lot, do you sit behind a desk at all?
Sometimes I'm in cars sitting.
Right, you're in cars sitting, and a lot of times what happens is if you're sitting, you're also in this kind of state, right, in a hip flexion state. And also if you're sitting behind a computer for a long period of time, you're also in this kind of state. So basically you want to do the opposite if you're trying to do corrective exercise. Start by thinking of putting yourself in opposite positions when you're working out, strengthening the posterior chain, the lower back, and releasing the tight muscles. That's one way you can start thinking about it to reverse it for jiu-jitsu if you want to continue playing on this side, because this is your strong dominant side, and you could also switch to playing it on the other side once in a while to balance it out. So, thank you.
Thank you.
There you have it. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you, Billy. He explained a lot, and I hope it covered some stuff for you guys, and stay tuned for more. Till next time.